It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good Saturday afternoon. Hope you're having a great day here in the state of Arkansas, out doing whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're on the lake or whether you're working in the yard or just enjoying driving around, taking in a beautiful afternoon. Thank you for taking a little time to join us here on the Kim Hammer Show. Want to remind you that any information that we talk about on the show today will get pushed up to the website, which is www.thekimhammershow.com, www.thekimhammershow.com, and we'll reference a few things that we'll be pushing up to the website later over the weekend, so you can just follow along. I've got two guests that are going to be on the Kim Hammer Show today. First is going to be Angie Cooper, who's the Chief Program Officer for Heartland Forward, and I'll give her a chance in a minute to talk a little bit about that. And then in the second half of the hour, we're going to be joined by Iverson Jackson. And Iverson is becoming pretty much an expert in the area of critical race theory. And we're going to be talking about that subject matter, how it's impacting the nation and what we're looking for here in the state of Arkansas as far as preventing it. That's my position on the matter. And Iverson will be on in the second half of the show. So thank you again for joining us on the Kim Hammer Show. And right now, let me welcome our guest, Angie Cooper, again, Chief Program Officer for the Heartland Forward. Angie, thanks for joining us on the Kim Hammer Show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start off by you telling folks about Heartland Forward. I'm not sure folks are familiar with who Heartland Forward is, so why don't you just give us a little bit of an information about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So Heartland Forward is a public 501c3 that was created in 2019. And we were founded to foster the economic success of communities in America's heartland. So think the middle of the country. And we really focus on issues related to job creation, to knowledge-based and inclusive growth, and to improved health outcomes. We're visiting with you today to talk specifically about the need for high-speed internet access. We recognize that it's a central goal of making communities achieve economic success. So we've recently launched what we're calling Connecting the Heartland Initiative, which is to help scale and accelerate state and local efforts to close the digital divide. And we're starting in 4 states: Arkansas, Illinois, Ohio, and Tennessee.
So why'd you pick those 4 states of the 20 states that make up the Heartland? Why those 4 states?
So we looked at, where is the greatest need for high-speed internet access? And we know actually that's across the country. This is an issue that is not just a rural issue, it's an urban issue as well. But as we got started, we knew that there were great opportunities in these states, and where there was great collaboration with state government as well as other organizations and key leaders that were really trying to drive through solutions of getting people connected and having the right information and education on getting access to the internet.
So let me ask you, we were having a lot of discussion about broadband a couple of weeks ago. I had on a couple of guests that spoke about broadband, and it's like one of those topics. It's one of the better analogies I heard was used by Senator Ron Caldwell. It's kind of like when electricity was first discovered and they began to try to push it out, because the recognition of the need. All of a sudden, everybody's getting on the bandwagon as far as broadband, no pun intended, and they're starting to push it out. What is it with all the efforts that are being done that your organization is doing differently, or how is it that you are complementing what's already being done in so many other areas?
Yeah, so your point exactly is, broadband has been an issue for quite some time and getting people connected, but we've all lived through the past 15 months, and that's shown us that access to affordable, high-speed internet is essential. And those that don't have it, they're unable to participate in necessary activities like school, work, and even signing up. We saw this at the early stages of signing up for vaccinations or maintaining social connections. You have to be able to get online. And it's important for communities, for households, and everything that we do. And we do know that one of the biggest barriers to internet access for many in the heartland and across the country is the cost. So while Heartland Forward, through our Connecting the Heartland initiative will be focused on a lot of different initiatives. We're specifically through this campaign is we've partnered with the FCC and state and local governments to provide information on how people can find out if they're eligible for the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. And this is a program that's run through the FCC and administered through the FCC. But it is, again, going back to the biggest barrier being affordability, this program allows for people who are eligible to receive up to $50 per month for internet services in their home. And then also, it also provides a one-time discount of up to $100 on the purchase of a connected device, like a laptop or a tablet. And our initiative is, like I said, to get the information out, sharing on programs like yours, helping people get signed up across the state of Arkansas, because we know that there's such a need to be able to help with that assistance through the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program.
Okay, I've pulled up the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, and let me ask you a few questions about that. But before we do, let me go back to something was said just a second ago. And we know that the feds have kind of changed the rules of the game as far as money that's going to be going out to what's called ISPs, the ones that are actually going to get the actual broadband out to the homes, as far as requiring what's referred to as, 100 up, 100 down, which you can download at 100 or you can send out at 100. The different provider groups that are out there that are all competing for those federal dollars, do you have anything, or does your organization have anything to do with that, or the organizational plan for how to best cover the state and in what process to cover the state? Or are you simply focused on making sure people get this information through the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program?
Yeah, our overall initiative through Connecting the Heartland is a multi-year, multi-pronged initiative. And so we do want to help with sort of some of the things that you mentioned earlier is when we started this initiative and more federal dollars in a positive way, we're going to continue to come down. But we're trying to help close the gap between all levels of government and industry people that are working in the space, because it is very complicated, and as money will come down from different agencies in different ways, how do we put some more boots on the ground and put more resources for state government and for local government to be able to receive those dollars and accelerate those dollars. We know, though, Heartland Forward, we're one organization, and not one organization is going to solve this. It truly has to be a collaborative effort, and it has to be a collaborative effort among the ISPs and the industry that, is putting the infrastructure in the ground. We believe, we should look at all technologies, but it has to be, a collaboration between all partners, government, nonprofits, industry. A true public-private partnership is sort of what's needed here. So that's really kind of our overall initiative, is how do we help close the gaps and accelerate some of the dollars and deploy them in our communities, specifically across the state of Arkansas. And again, the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program and giving that information out to actual households is just one part of our overall initiative.
So the utilization of our dollars to leverage federal dollars to help advance the broadband implementation in the state, does your organization help identify what are the possible leveraging of state dollars against federal dollars so we can get more bang for the buck?
Yeah, we're talking with the broadband offices and other community leaders and organizations, because we believe in sharing best practices too, because we're working in multiple states. We're trying to share across of, here's what's working, here's the plan that was put in place here, and how do we help with that? I mentioned earlier, just using the phrase putting boots on the ground. In addition to some of the initiatives that I've already mentioned, we partnered with an organization called Lead for America, and we are funding a number of fellows. So it's recently students, graduated students that are from Arkansas, in Arkansas, that have graduated and have come back, and they'll be assisting with initiatives of whether it be grant making opportunities, bringing the right people together, just putting some more resources to help with the government initiatives as well as those local community leaders that are working on this. So we're excited, and we appreciate the partnership with everyone throughout the state of Arkansas, and just want to continue to get the word out and collaborate and ensure that we get the dollars where they need to go so we can get people connected as soon as possible.
Okay. The Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which if you want to type that in your search bar, it should pull up. It did for me anyway. Household is eligible if a member of a household meets one or more of the criteria below, and it goes through about 5 different criteria. And this is for, and if I term this wrong, you straighten me out. Wouldn't be the first time I get straightened out on the radio. The financial assistance for those who may need it in order to afford to buy the device to get hooked up, but then secondly, be able to afford to continue to get the service with $50 per month. So I've got 5 things identified. Am I pretty accurate so far in my description?
You are correct. You've got it right.
Okay. So has an income that is at or below 135% of the federal poverty guidelines, or participants in certain assistance programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, and Lifeline. As a legislator, let me ask you, how are you going to verify, or how is that information verified if somebody wants to make application for the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program?
So that is administered through online through the FCC. So the FCC is the one that determines eligibility for people that are signing up.
And it also says approved to receive benefits under the free and reduced price school lunch program or the school breakfast program, including through USDA community eligibility provision in the 2019-2020 school year. I know one thing that, which my wife's a public school educator, and she had to do, like so many other educators, dual roles as far as teaching online, but then also teaching to those that continue to come to school. The rationale of why is all this built around those that otherwise financially may not be able to afford the internet service? Because I know that would be a big issue to a student who maybe needs to connect, but their parents can't afford to connect.
You are exactly right. That's what this is for people that can't afford it, that need that additional assistance to ensure that they're connected and have the access at home.
Okay. Third criteria is receive federal Pell Grant during the current award year. So I guess that's intended to target toward the college kids.
That's correct.
And then experienced a substantial loss of income due to a job loss or furlough, since February 29th of 20, and the household has a total income at or below $99,000 for single filers, $198 for joint filers. I mean, that captures, in my opinion, that's almost the middle class income or the middle income class that you're talking about there, or am I misinterpreting that?
Nope, that's right. I mean, it's a very broad program for eligibility to get people connected. And what I will say, it is truly an emergency program. So it was passed by Congress. It's a $3.2 billion program, and the money is available. As long as the money is there. We're working with other partners. I mean, this is a temporary solution, and I think as we look at different policies and ways to continue to help people that need that additional assistance to get connected, we need to come up with that long-term solution, and that can be done, through programs at the federal level, but also great opportunities from a state perspective and a local perspective to start thinking about, once these dollars run out, what's next, and how do we find a solution? To date, as of July 6th, 3.3 households nationally have enrolled in the program, and 41,000 in the state of Arkansas have enrolled. So there's a long way to go to get all Arkansans connected that are eligible, and we believe this campaign and getting education out to them can keep Arkansas enrollments in EV be strong throughout the summer months.
So what are you doing to help push out the information other than being on the Kim Hammer Show? What are you doing to help push out the information to where people can learn about this? And as I would summarize or look at it, this is a Get Start program to where, of course, you got to let one of the things I see happening is if we don't get the broadband out to the areas, it doesn't matter if the program to pay for it is available because they don't have access to the service. So it's kind of like a land grab race. We've got to push to get the service out there, but then
Right.
these people need to be positioned. What happens if they sign up for it, but the internet service is not yet delivered to their house? Will they be able to keep their place in line, or will they go to the bottom of the list until the internet service does actually get to their area?
Yeah, so these are all things that the FCC, being that it's their administered program, will help and work with them. You know, when you identify where you're at, they, there's information about who you're providing, what your access is, and sort of what next steps look like. So you're exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of information and education that needs to be done as households and families are looking to sign up. But that is something that the FCC, through this program, will help identify and also collaborate with, the state and the state broadband offices, and as well as the local communities.
Are y'all doing anything through the schools to push this information out? I know school's not back in session, but really it's about a month away. Doing anything because some of the populations that are, identified as who is eligible are targeting the school kids as far as, a great percentage. Are you doing anything to push this out to the schools?
Yeah, so as we launched this campaign, the schools, the Department of Education worked really closely with us and is staying in contact. More to come, though, and so maybe we can closer to when school starts again. Would love to share more information. We're looking at what should be shared as we work towards back to school initiatives with a number of organizations and Department of Education across the state, and then looking at a lot of organizations in the state that work with households that could be eligible. The FCC is sort of helping and looking to help train so more people can talk about how to sign up and what's needed. So more to come on that. We'd love to, look at opportunities to partner with libraries and other groups across the state.
So one of the things I see that could be a little bit of a pitfall is we help them get hooked up. We give them $100 for the device. We start giving them $50 a month to go toward the bill, which with the spirit of competition among the ISPs, that may be doable for several families. What happens when the money runs out? We just hope that they get it adjusted into their personal household budget to be able to continue to afford it. Or do you anticipate that this is something that'll be a long-term funded project of the feds?
I think that's, exactly what needs to be continued to push and talked about. I mean, this is an emergency program, so it is temporary. So that's where we go back to how can all levels of government work together to ensure that we continue to provide, the necessary things for people to be able to have access. Because again, it's an economic issue for our communities. It's impacting schoolwork and jobs and healthcare. And so it's definitely, these funds, we expect to run through the summer and the fall. It's definitely a longer term strategy and plan that needs to be put in place. And I think that's only accomplished with working at all levels of government and with the right stakeholders in each individual state.
All right, so you're going to send me some information so I can get it up on the KimHammerShow.com website for people to be able to reference. But right now it says, for what I'm looking at, it says go to getemergencybroadband.org. Is that the best place for people to go to learn about this and also to be able to get the application to apply?
Yes, that is the right information. And we will absolutely share with you more information that you can put up online, as well as a number that people can call and learn more. So we just encourage everyone, if you do have questions, to let us know and to check out to see if you're eligible to receive those benefits.
Okay. The last thing I would ask you before we go, just give me your interpretation of where we are currently as a state with, and we've got a lot of money coming into the state, but I will tell you one of the things we as legislators are pushing for, and that is a organized plan for how this is going to be disseminated throughout the state so that we make sure we maximize what the ISPs are going to be expected to do in the way of delivery, make sure we don't compromise the 100 up, 100 down in the process, but also to make sure that we take advantage of the resources that are already lying out there, maybe fiber lines that are just laying dark, as they say, or they're laying dormant. They're not actually turned on or being accessed. And so what is your view as far as the approach that Arkansas is using right now and the concept of, before we go any further, let's make sure we got a plan so we know precisely what we're going to get for the money that we're going to give to the ISPs?
Yeah, I would say think of it as it's all hands on deck. I mean, this needs to happen, and it needs to happen in an accelerated way. So, first and foremost, it's about availability and access. So working with the ISPs, making sure the dollars are going where they need to go. I know the state has done a lot from a mapping perspective. We know that mapping is a challenge across the entire country to know where you can light up the fastest. But I would say, all hands on deck as it relates to where the technology is and how do we get the last mile to the home. I would say the second thing is about adoptability. We cannot forget that, education is key, and digital skills and making sure people know and are aware where and how they can sign up for services and who your provider is important. So that's where kind of your public-private partnership comes into play. And then thirdly, affordability piece. It's one thing to put infrastructure in the ground, but if the people where they live can't afford it, it's a challenge. So I would say access, adoptability, and affordability. If the state can focus on that and really ensure that, you're convening and making it all hands on deck situation. There's so many people across the state that want to help and put resources, and we need not just funding, but we need some bodies also. And I think, there's a lot of organizations across the state that want to ensure that we're doing the right thing for our communities. So that would be kind of my recommendation and sort of what we're seeing in other states across the Heartland as well.
Okay. So this is Angie Cooper, Chief Program Officer for the Heartland Forward. You'll be able to go up to my website. I'll get that up over the weekend when Angie gets it out to me, to where you can go to see if you qualify to receive this assistance. And again, that is the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. I can tell you that you can go to it says getemergencybroadband.org to apply online and to find participating providers near you. One quick question for you. Are all providers in Arkansas participating in this, or are some saying, no, we're not going to participate in this?
I do not have the full list of those participating, but that will all be information from the FCC.
Okay, very good. All right, Angie, any final words you want to share to the listening audience before I let you go?
Just really appreciate you allowing me to be on to share the information. Appreciate the work that the legislature, the governor, and the state broadband office is doing, and we're here to help and look forward to coordinating to ensure everyone gets connected across the state of Arkansas.
Sounds great. We'll look forward to seeing you in the future and may get you back on as things progress. Again, that's Angie Cooper, Chief Program Officer for the Heartland Forward, and you can go up to my website. We'll get that information out over the weekend. We're going to take a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to have Iverson Jackson who's going to talk about what critical race theory. He's actually going to be in Benton tonight at 5 o'clock, and he is going to be speaking on critical race theory. I think he'll prove himself as somebody that's worth your time coming out and listen to when we come back and interview him here on the Kim Hammer Show. Be back in just a minute. Kim Hammer Show on 101.1 FM, The Answer. Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. In case you're just joining us, we had Angie Cooper, Chief Program Officer for the Heartland Ford, a group that is pulled together as a 501c3 to help pursue getting broadband accessible to everybody in the state of Arkansas. And they were focusing on some financial assistance that is available out there should you fit one of the 5 criteria that's required. You can go up to the website, my website. We'll have that information up over the weekend, or you can go up to getemergencybroadband.org to apply online and find out about participating providers near you. All right now we're going to finish out the Kim Hammer Show on a beautiful Saturday with Iverson Jackson, who's joining me from Fayetteville. He's actually up getting, at least you were getting, an apartment for your daughter to get her settled in up there at the U of A. So, Iverson, I appreciate you taking time to be here on the Kim Hammer Show.
Good to be here with you today, Senator Hammer. I appreciate it, and I think this is a topic that we'll all have to deal with one way or another, whether we want to or not. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience and let them know what's really going on here in this nation with this critical race theory.
All right. And just for those that maybe have not heard Iverson before, either Dave Ellswick has him on a regular basis, and I've had him on the show as well. Iverson, why don't you just establish your credibility for the folks, just about your background and what you've done, because I know you're retired military, and then talk a little bit about why you're interested in critical race theory. And just as a disclaimer, Iverson, if you've ever seen him on the Kim Hammer Show, Iverson is African-American. I do want to make that distinction because I think that's a contributing factor to the discussion on critical race theory, because they are trying to make it about race. So he's not in studio today, but I do want to make that disclaimer because I think it brings a little bit of credibility and perspective to the conversation. So, Iverson, just kind of tell a little bit about yourself, about your background, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Okay, and you know, Tim, it's good to be on the show and to talk. And yes, I'm on Dave Ellswick. We're on there on Monday mornings from 6 to 8. I'm from Little Rock, actually out in the county, Wrightsville area. Grew up here, born in 1962, so I caught a little bit of the tail end of the whole civil rights movement of the 60s. I actually remember when Dr. King was assassinated. I was in the first grade there. We're sitting there in the classroom, and in every classroom had a little television in it. So I do remember that. Growing up here in the South, going to Southern Arkansas University, a little bit further south, got my degree in business there, went into the military, did 25 years there, retired in 2008 from the Armed Reserve side as a lieutenant colonel, and master's degree from Webster's Public Administration. I now serve as the African American Coalition of Arkansas chairman. Also serve on several other organizations, on some vice president of some nationwide organizations, and just one. My whole thing in life has been working to make our communities better for everyone. So when I saw something like this critical race, the 1619 Project, which is really an offspring of critical race theory, that all the work that we have done in this nation to help improve race relations, if that's, that's what they call it, race relations, and to build an America that's put forth in our Declaration of Independence and codified with our Constitution, to live in that type of America, help build that type of America, has been the dream of everyone that I know that, really appreciates being here. And so to hear critical race theory, something talking about that we don't have, just because you're black, you're oppressed, and you're white, you're an automatic oppressor. Well, if you're black, you're a victim. That to me, that's offensive. I was taught, raised to work hard and to believe that if you did that, work hard, you could pursue any dream that you have in your heart. And that's what our founding documents say, that we have the pursuit of happiness. There's no guarantees in life for anything, Senator Hammond. I think you know that, and any other person that's got a sound mind knows that there's no guarantee. But we are guaranteed as Americans at least to be able to pursue those things that make us happy. And to me, that makes it worthwhile. But this critical race theory that's now being pushed down into our even elementary schools, they have the money, they have the money just like they did with the 1619 Project. They've developed curriculum. I've seen some of it. I've looked at and viewed, studied some of it. And it is some kind of, and I call it just damnable heresy, historical heresy, and just a damnable indoctrination. And it's really, how do you tell a child just by virtue, you look at a 6-year-old child by virtue of them being white or black or whatever the ethnicity is, that you are a victim or that you are an oppressor? They don't even know what that means. And so that's why I'm involved with this teaching about that, pushing back on this doctrine of critical race. And again, it says critical race theory. So something that it started, of course, back in the 1970s with the ideal stemming from critical law, and then with Derek Bell and some others in that era, and then formalizing it in the 80s, and now trying to push it down to all levels of education. And we've really got to push back on that, because we will end up in America that's unrecognizable, and it really only causes more division. It won't help anything, it just causes more division. Because in order for America to be systemically racist, that means that every part of our system, every program, every government office, every school, everything about America is racist. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
So let me ask you, you talked about the schools. I noticed on Fox News yesterday that 25 schools are pushing out the CRT book, and I'm not sure. I think that's Woke Inc. is the name of the book. I could be mistaken on that. What do you know about the curriculum that is being pushed out, that is being used to teach critical race theory?
The one that I have actually seen, I have a part of that, and some I've read from the critical race book. That curriculum, imagine a pyramid, and the top, 20% of that pyramid they label that as overt racism. And at the top of that pyramid, of course, would be Ku Klux Klan, and then some of the things, Jim Crow, all those things that all of us as Americans would automatically say that's unacceptable. And that's what they label as unacceptable or overt racism. Then the bottom 80% of that pyramid is what they would, and this is what's being handed out to teachers in the Iowa schools, some Iowa schools. And the bottom 80% of that pyramid would be covert racism, white supremacy. I'll say white supremacy. And at the top of that, it has make America great again. And down toward the bottom, it says, even if you believe in Columbus Day, if you think that's the day that should be celebrated, that makes you a white supremacist. And really, it's almost laughable, but it's too serious to laugh about. But when you look at it, it's anything that doesn't agree with the left's narrative is white supremacy. I'm a white supremacist.
So we can say, based on the statement that you just said, the group that's pushing out the critical race theory is the leftist group.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, here's the thing about the claims that they make. When you look at those claims, and when we say leftist, let's just be forthright all the way out. We're talking about, and they have taken over the Democrat Party. Let me just say that. And when you look at all the things they call disparities, where these things are happening and taking place in Democrat-controlled cities, primarily in Democrat-controlled cities. So the things that they look at, they're talking about, they are actually in control of those systems.
So define exactly what is critical race theory, and give it to us in a nutshell.
All right, this is critical race theory. This, again, is theory, and it says that in a basis, if you think about Marxism, where Marxism divided people into classes, or you had the oligarch and the proletariat. The proletariat, of course, being the poor people, and the oligarchy being the few rich people. Well, instead of putting it in that format, they put it in race, something that's immutable, something that we can't change. Now, they did try to make Marxists work here in America, but because our system, the way it's set up, if you work hard, you can move up from one class to another. Rich people become poor, people become rich. So that wouldn't work. So they had to find something, a vehicle that was immutable, which is race, and that's why they have latched on to that racism. And so this is what critical race theory teaches, is that you are not your character makeup, as Dr. King says. You are your skin color. That's who you are. That's how you identify. That's what makes you. That's the only thing about you that really matters.
Okay, I know you're going to be speaking tonight at 5 o'clock down at Benton. It's going to be. I'll get the address, get the information before we get off show here in 15 minutes, where it's going to be talking about critical race theory and being available to answer questions about it. Let me come at it from a different angle. Politically, we understand it's the goal of the left to advance this, and I'll tell you, I grew up north. Okay. And so I've had the benefit of living up north, but I also have the benefit of living down south. And in my 62 years of living, I don't remember a time that as a nation, race was as ever a hot topic like it is today, to the point of being divisive. It seems like any time previously that race was a subject of discussion, it was always with the intent of trying to move us toward healing. Now it seems like race and the discussion of race is not directed toward guiding us toward healing or continuing on the healing process. It is to blow us up, which to me, if I'm looking at the strategy from the left, that's what I want, because that divide and conquer theory would fit into the description. But let me ask you to take it from a different angle, because you are a minister. Talk about critical race theory from a spiritual battle perspective, and from a spiritual view, how critical race theory does not align with anything that is spiritual, defined by God in His Word.
Yes, and let's include this also. When we look at our founding documents, Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, I include George Washington's farewell speech to the nation in that. In our Declaration of Independence, it says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Now, we know that our founders were men who read, most of them were men who read and studied the Bible. Many of them were believers. And they got that statement, all men are created equal, from the Scriptures, because the Scripture says that God is no respecter of persons. So as I have studied critical race theory for some time now, and pretty much in depth, it has led me to this, that critical race theory is not only anti-American, it is also anti-Christian. So as I look at the Scriptures, I cannot see comport in any way that a Christian could be a believer in critical race theory, again, because Scripture says that man was made by God. There's only one race, and that is the human race. If you believe the Bible, of course, we all came from Adam. And then also you get into the letters to the church, where Paul said to the Philippian church, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, which has nothing to do with any other man. There's no man on this earth that can stop me if Christ is for me. So as a Christian, believing in the Lord Jesus Christ, this just goes against everything that I've ever read in the Bible, ever studied, and ever teach from the Bible. So I would say to all Christians, take a look at this critical race theory in light of your belief in what the Word of God says. And to pastors, that we have to address this biblically. And there's your biblical foundation right there. God made man equal. We're all from one blood, as it says in Acts 17:26. That He's made of all one blood of all nations. And so this critical race theory that just based on your skin color, you are divided into races. This is anti-Christian and anti-American.
Why do you think that this is part of the platform of the left? What is it that has ignited them so much that they are trying to force this upon people and to force it into the educational system? Why is it part of their master plan book?
I think it is to, you think when you think about the history of mankind, war has just been a part of, of the history of man because of its sinful nature. And of course, in war, to the victor goes the spoils. They have been after this great bountiful land for a very long time. And it didn't just start today. When you think about the theory of evolution with Darwin going way back into the 1800s and then just moving forward with Marxism being, again, dosed in there little by little. And the left have been working in the education for well over 100 years to get this doctrine to be accepted. And at times, of course, they know they can't push it forward. So it just not really lies dormant, but just gets in small places and incrementally moves to a place where they get on a larger platform. You're talking about you came from the north. When I was stationed at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey in 1991, 92, 93, and even back then, that doctrine was being pushed out, some of that doctrine, because this also supports the LGBT. Some of that doctrine was being pushed out into the New York school systems 30 years ago when I was living up there, and it just finally works its way down south because, this is the Bible Belt. So, that's their goal, again, is to take control of America and make it a communist, socialist type state.
What's the connection between the critical race theory and the gay and lesbian agenda? You just referenced it. What's the connection between the two?
Yes. If you think back a few years ago, the LGBT began to attach itself to the civil rights movement of the 60s, and it starts saying, and I heard that it really kind of angered me for someone when you're putting yourself in a lifestyle. There's a very big difference between a lifestyle, LGBT, which is a lifestyle, versus me being an African American, which is nothing you can do. I can't hide in the closet. If I go in the closet, I'm black. If I come out the closet, I'm black. So there's nothing I can do about that. That's immutable. But the other side is a choice, and to say that we should understand, we as African Americans and black people should understand how a lesbian or gay or transgender person feels because we're being discriminated. No, that is absolutely, to me, that's just appalling to say that I have to feel like they feel. But that's what they do. They adopt or attach themselves to other movements so that they can have legitimacy. And that's what part of it's about. And if you look into 1619 doctrine, the BLM on their doctrine that they had, they took it down. But all of it was in support of LGBT, and that's just part of that bigger crowd, have a bigger platform, if you will, so they can move that stuff forward.
So let me ask you, you've identified three groups in your comments: BLM, LGBTQ, and the CRT movement. Are they all aligned in their philosophical ideas of what they're trying to do as one in order to erode America, do you think?
Absolutely. When you look at BLM and you think about Senator Hammer, BLM in their doctrinal statement, they want to, and they say this, they want to get rid of the traditional family, if you will, and their overwhelming support for the LGBT. And when you look at what critical race theory does, it takes the focus off of the real issues. So they're working in coordination here. Critical race theory takes the focus off the real issues, like failing schools and the destruction of the family, which is what BLM supports and lack of individual responsibility. All those are things that these organizations they support those things, and they work together. Not saying coordination, but they're all one. Actually, when you look at it, they're all really one group because it's the same ideology.
I'm going to throw this in because on Fox News yesterday, I think there is an uprising that is occurring as far as opposing the CRT. And let me just make this comment. If you ever thought local politics didn't have a place, you are sadly mistaken, because right now what we need are people at the local level in the school board position that has the authority over what happens within the school. If ever there's a place you want to get involved in politics, if you're a good, solid conservative, it's in the school board position right now because of what the left is trying to do by capturing the educational system. That is all the more reason that we have good, solid conservatives occupying those school board positions to make sure that we hold all this in check.
That's right.
You're talking about, we've been talking about critical race theory being taught in the high school and college, but also there's a push for it to occur in the workplace through diversity training. And, when I hear the word diversity, one thing the left has been very creative about is stealing either a word or a icon or an identity, such as taking the rainbow away from God, who said, I would never destroy the earth again, and he placed the rainbow over the earth.
Yes.
But also the word diversity, where it is used in a positive way to help populations that are maybe either handicapped or they have situations that are through no fault of their own, but yet they are stealing these terms in order to get people to be more embracing because they confuse the definition of the use of the word. But workplace diversity training is something that's being pushed heavily, and it's even being pushed heavily in our hospitals, and it's being pushed heavily in our workplaces and our state government programs,
and now in the military.
So I guess
really breaks my heart.
Yeah, and why is that so destructive to the military?
The military has to work as a cohesive force, as a unit, and you have to be able to depend on that person right next to you, and there can't be any underlying issues. When I started my military training back in 1981, we were still digging foxholes, and the foxholes, where there was a place of protection. But you were just trained to be a unit. When you looked at someone, you didn't see if they were black or white. You wanted to know if they were trained and if they had your back. If they knew whatever the orders were given, if they knew how to do their job. That's what was important, because you're talking about a life and death situation. You don't have time for all this stuff that these people are putting out. You need to know that you can depend on the person next to you, and that has nothing to do with their race or color or ethnicity. Because we have a lot of people that were not necessarily right from our territories. They may not be American citizens, but they're still allowed to serve in the military. So none of those things made any difference. And I think the military and sports, which I played sports and was in the military. So those were two of the greatest places to be, to have. When you talk about diversity, I like to use the term by variety. I think God likes variety. And so when you talk about having variety of people from all walks of backgrounds, that was the military, that was sports. And so for me, this stuff just cuts to the heart when I see what's happening in our sports and what they're also doing in our military and at our military academy. It's really heartbreaking, and it's very disturbing that this is taking place, and it's dangerous for our nation, because we shouldn't be talking about color or race in the military. We should be talking about what our mission is and perfecting that mission. That's what we should be doing.
I've only got about 2 minutes, but as I was listening to you talk, one of the things that came in my mind, good, bad, or ugly, is that you never make yourself better by pushing somebody else down. And to me, that's almost what's going on through critical race theory, and that is instead of me focusing on who I am and how I've come from where I was, whether that's through my efforts or somebody else's imposing their will on me, just like you having succeeded, through your accomplishments in life, you didn't get there because you tried to focus on the failures of others as much as you tried to strive for the success of yourself.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I don't want you to think about this, Senator, that there's only one reason why we have a border crisis at our southern border, and that is because the whole world knows, including Africans, that if they can get to America, if I can just get to America, I have a better chance to make it than anywhere else in the world. And that's why over the last 50 years, more than 2 million Africans have legally immigrated into the United States of America. So you have people who want to be successful. They know that America has the recipe for success. And it is very tragic that people from the rest of the world know that. And then we have this group here in America who says that we're so oppressed and America is so racist, they're holding everybody back.
Okay.
No, you're rewarded by your own works.
I'm down to 30 seconds. I tried to give you all the time I could. All right, so Iverson is going to be down at the Enclave in Benton, which is across from the Central Fire Station, 5 o'clock tonight. Come and get educated about critical race theory. You've been listening to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM, The Answer, and you can go up to my website, thekimhammershow.com, and we'll have more information about our guest that was on earlier. Iverson, I appreciate you so much taking time out. Good luck finding an apartment for your daughter up there at U of A, but don't let her screw her up while she's up there getting a good education. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Iverson.
bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Kim Hammer Show today. We'll have you back next Saturday noon, every noon here on 101.1 FM, The Answer on Saturday. Thanks.